What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing another silly season update where I'm going to recap everything that's happened so far in the 2023 to 2024 NASCAR silly season. So anyways, let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. Silly season would kick off in the second week of January, as Kevin Harvick would officially announce he'd be retiring at the end of the 2023 season. Then a month later, he would confirm he'd be joining the Fox Sports booth starting in 2024. After rumors circulate, he'd be joining on a full-time basis, joining Mike Joy and Clint Bowyer. After a fantastic career, he will hang up the helmet and join the Fox Sports booth. A few days later, Kyle Larson would officially announce he'd be running the 2024 and likely the 2025 Indianapolis 500. He'll have Aaron McLaren as the organization with Hendrick's support and will be driving the number 17 in honor of Ricky Hendrick. Kyle Larson has a really great chance to win the 2024 and 2025 Indianapolis 500s. Silly seemed to be quiet for a few weeks, and then Casey Mears would speak to the media at the Phoenix test for the short track package and would reveal that he desires to return to NASCAR. Casey Mears has not raced in NASCAR since 2019 and wants to get the 500 NASCAR Cup Series starts. While he didn't have the greatest career in the world, it'd be cool to see him make a return. Silly seemed to be quiet for a few more weeks, and then late January, it would be announced that Chase Briscoe signed a multi-year contract extension with Stewart-Haas Racing. While the number of years was not disclosed, it was expected that Chase Briscoe is probably going to be with the team for the next few years. While Chase Briscoe is strong in 2023, he looks to be better in the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. Then during the Rolex 24, Romain Grosjean spoke to the media, and he says he's interested in racing NASCAR and would love to race in the Daytona 500 one day. Romain Grosjean currently competes full-time with the Andretti Autosport and IndyCar and looks to have a lot more success and maybe in the not-so-distant future come over and race in NASCAR. Then silly seemed to be quiet for a few more weeks, and then we'd have a lot of drivers announce contract extensions. First, during Daytona Media Day, Daniel Suarez says he had signed a multi-year contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. While the number of years had not been disclosed, it's expected that Daniel Suarez has a contract through 2025 or 2026. He looks to build on that in 2024. Maybe he looks to get a second career victory by the end of 2023 or the 2024 season. On that same day, it would be announced Alex Bowman also signed a contract extension with Hendrick Motorsports that goes through the 2026 season. In addition to that, it was also announced that Ally has signed a contract extension as well through 2028. So there's a very strong possibility that Alex Bowman will likely get an extension once again through 2028, depending on how his performance goes. Then on the next day, Ross Chastain would also announce that he had signed a long-term contract extension with Trackhouse Racing. While the number of years had not been disclosed, Ross Chastain expected to be with the team till his beard is gray. In addition to that, about a month or two ago, it was announced that Busch Beer will be leaving Stewart-Haas Racing at the end of this year and joining Trackhouse Racing in the 2024 season. Then silly seemed to be quiet for a couple months, and then Ford spoke about Hailie Deegan, and they are committed to her for 2024. Hailie Deegan also went on a podcast recently, I think on the Barstool podcast with Spidey and Dan Diorio, and she says she wants to go Xfinity Series racing in 2024. She says she needs a lot more funding and sponsorship for that possibility and for that potential to end up happening, but it sounds like Hailie Deegan does want to go Xfinity racing. I've said this for a long time, that I think Hailie Deegan would definitely perform in the Xfinity Series a lot better than the Truck Series, but it sounds like there's a good chance of possibility she could be heading to the Xfinity Series in the 2024 season. Just not sure what team will be. It for sure will not be Stewart-Haas Racing, though. Then throughout the year, there's been a lot of discussion about Junior Motorsports and them potentially trying to go Cup Series racing. There's been discussion about them going Cup racing since the 2021 season. And there have been some talk that they could go Cup racing as early as 2022 or 23, and maybe they would go up in 2024. However, they have kind of confirmed over the last few weeks they're likely not going to be moving up to the Cup Series in 2024, with rumored charter prices being around $40 to $50 million and Dale Jr. passing up on that when they were $10 or $20 million. It sounds very likely at this point that Junior Motorsports will not be going Cup racing. On the same podcast that Dale Jr. has spoken about them going Cup racing, Chip Ganassi was on that same podcast, and he revealed that he's now rolling out potentially bringing Chip Ganassi Racing back to NASCAR. Chip Ganassi was in the NASCAR Cup Series from 2001 up until 2021, until they sold their Cup Series team off to Trackhouse Racing. It'd be really cool to see him come back, and maybe in the future we'll see him back if a new manufacturer comes into play. Then there's been a little bit of conversation about Scott McLaughlin because he's spoken about this on Twitter over the last few months. First back in March, got to talk about this. And then after the Chicago Street Course race that Shane Van Gisbergen won, he talked about potentially racing in NASCAR. He almost raced in NASCAR a few years ago. He had the option to either go to IndyCar or race in NASCAR and chose the IndyCar route for Team Penske. But Scott McLaughlin, I think, could adapt very well if he came to NASCAR. Then, in late March, after a pretty successful debut with the number 15 team for Ricker Racing, Jensen Button has opened up and says he's interested in racing in NASCAR full-time. While Jensen Button will likely be racing with World Endurance Championship in 2024, there is a chance and possibility long-term that we could see Jensen Button in the next year's racing NASCAR full-time. He's had a lot of success with the Garage 56 entry and also did race in a couple cup races with Rick Ware Racing. Then, in the second week of May, there will be a shocking announcement where Legacy Motor Club will be announcing that they'll be switching to Toyota in 2024. It has been confirmed that Eric Jones for sure will be driving the number 43 car full-time in 2024. We're still not sure at this moment who will be driving the number 42 car. But it also needs to be noted that they will be getting direct support from Toyota starting in 2024. So they'll basically become the second Toyota team in the pipeline, with Joe Gibbs Racing being the top and Legacy Motor Club being second in the pipeline, causing frustration for 2311 Racing. This is a big move for Legacy Motor Club as they look to improve and become a better organization. Then during the Miami Grand Prix weekend, Lewis Hamilton spoke to media members and he said he's interested in racing in NASCAR. He said to the media he would like to try it. He's also now ruling out a possibility of racing IndyCar in the future, but Lewis Hamilton has driven a NASCAR stock car before. Back in 2011. He just swapped with Tony Stewart in a Mobil 1 event. I think that Lewis Hamilton would be fun to race in NASCAR. Then throughout the year, there's been a lot of conversation about Carl Edwards as well, as it all started after Carl Edwards was announced to be one of the 75 NASCAR greatest drivers of all time. He says he's not ruling out a potential return to NASCAR. He went on Sirius NASCAR Radio speaking to Dave Moody, and he said he has actually went to the Trackhouse Racing Shop. And Denny Hamlin revealed that he's actually been doing sim work with Toyota, and Denny Hamlin has offered him potential possibility of making a one-off start with 2311 Racing. Carl Edwards has not raced in NASCAR since 2016, since his son in retirement, and there's a chance of possibility that he could return to NASCAR. On the same weekend, we honored the top 75 drivers. Kasey Kahne spoke to the media members, and he's also considered a potential return to NASCAR as well. Kasey Kahne says that his health is a lot better than it's been. He said his dehydration issues have kind of gone away since he went back to the World of Outlaws, so we could see him potentially make a return to NASCAR in the not-so-distant future. Then during the Coca-Cola 600 weekend for Charlotte, Roger Cruz spoke to the media, and he says he's currently a free agent at the moment and does not have a ride for 2024. Roger Cruz, I think, is a very, very talented driver who can get the best out of equipment, and I think there is a good chance and possibility that we'll see him in a full-time ride in 2024, but currently at this moment, he does not have a ride set for the 2024 NASCAR season. Throughout the year, there's been a lot of conversation about Harrison Burton and what his future is going to look like. Well, according to reports throughout the whole entire year, it sounds like Harrison Burton will more than likely be returning to the Wood Brothers in 2024, as reported over the last couple days that they made some crew chief changes. Brian Wilson, who's been working with Harrison Burton for the last couple of years, moving to work with Austin Cindric once again in 2023 and 2024, and Jerry Bones moving to work over in the 21 car for the rest of the year in 2024. So it sounds very likely that Harrison Burton is going to be returning to the Wood Brothers in 2024. Then there's been a lot of conversation about FedEx, and a lot of reports suggesting that FedEx is close to signing an extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. This doesn't mean that Denny Hamlin is for sure returning to Joe Gibbs Racing or not, because there's a lot of more details that we'll talk about Denny Hamlin later in this silly season update. But it sounds very likely, and a lot of people are very confident that they are close to signing a deal. FedEx has been with Joe Gibbs Racing since 2004 and 2005 seasons. They are likely coming back to Joe Gibbs Racing in the 2024 season. Then during the Sonoma NASCAR Cup Series weekend, Greg Biffle spoke to the media, and he says he's interested in returning to NASCAR once again if Portland goes on to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule or maybe runs the Xfinity Series at Portland. Greg Biffle did race last year in 2022 with the Next Gen car and didn't have a lot of success, but that was with the number 44 NY Racing organization. He's also had some success in the SRX and did win a truck race a few years ago back in 2019 for Kyle Busch Motorsports. It'd be cool to see him make a return in the future. Then in the middle of June, Joe Gibbs Racing would announce that they had sold a minority stake to HBSE. Now, HBSC is a Harris Blitzer group that has bought up the Washington Commanders organization. They're not planning a team change the name of that team. And it's also been reported the team name is not going to be changed with this purchase. But Joe Gibbs now will have a minority ownership stake in multiple different teams, including the Washington Commanders, the New Jersey Devils, and also be working with the Philadelphia 76ers as well. This team is looking for more sponsorship and more money, and they'll be looking to bring a lot of investment into the group. And I think this overall could be a very good and really strong move for Joe Gibbs Racing long term, as Joe Gibbs Racing is probably not too far from retiring at this point and having Heather Gibbs take over the operation. Then there was a lot of speculation about who would take in the 4 car, and it's been announced that Josh Berry will be driving the number 4 car for Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024. And it was confirmed that Ronnie Childers is going to be the crew chief of that number 4 car. Josh Berry's not sure what sponsors and funding will be brought over, but Josh Berry's been having a really good year, and the last couple years at Xfinity have gone really well for Josh Berry. So therefore, this is a very, very solid move, and Ronnie Childers wanted to bring Josh Berry into the organization. So Josh Berry joining Stewart-Haas Racing in 2024, and this is the second confirmed driver for this team. Then in the front stretch RW exclusive multiple different people, Quinn Halffield is not interested in returning to NASCAR unless he got a very competitive ride in opportunity. Quinn Half did struggle in NASCAR the few years that he did run in NASCAR, but he never got top tier equipment to prove it. But it sounds like Quinn Half is satisfied with his life currently at the moment, and he will not be returning to NASCAR, at least for the foreseeable future. Then Jordan Taylor spoke to the media, I think a couple months ago, and says he wants to run more NASCAR races. Jordan Taylor earlier in the year made his NASCAR Cup Series debut in substitution for Chase Lee. He was out due to a snowboarding injury and had a pretty decent debut, but it didn't go very well. But it did, of course, he was kind of out for lunch, but did actually qualify very, very well. He has been making some more late model starts and would like to maybe in the future run some more oval races as well. Then over the last few months, there's been a lot of conversation about Andretti Autosport, and they're interested in potentially joining NASCAR. Conversation started at the beginning of 2023, but they may have a way to get into NASCAR now, as they are now working with Spire Motorsports with Gamebridge Partnership. The owner of Gamebridge, which is Dan Townis, has a big partnership with Andretti Autosport, as he is now a co-owner of the Andretti Autosport Group. We've also been seeing Kyle Kirkwood and Colton Herta on top of the pit box for Ty Dillon and Corey LaJoie, and also Mark Andretti made his debut with Spire Motorsports as well. So it sounds very likely at this point that this could be a potential way for them to get in. Maybe they find a way to have a partnership. It's going to be hard to get charters, how expensive they are currently at the moment. But it sounds like at this point that Andretti Autosport may find a way to get into NASCAR in the foreseeable future. Then in late June or early July, a lot of reports started coming out that Frankie Muniz is looking to potentially move up to the NASCAR Xfinity Series or Truck Series in 2024. For me, I think it'd be more successful if he went up to the NASCAR Truck Series, but it seems like that the ARCA car kind of translates to the NASCAR Xfinity car as well. He's been having a pretty good year in ARCA in the 2023 season. He's currently second in the championship and has a decent chance to win the championship, though it's very likely at this point that Jesse Love is going to clinch that championship. But it sounds like Frankie's interested in going into NASCAR. Then at the Mid-Ohio weekend in early July to mid-July, Mark Andretti spoke to the media, and he's interested in running in NASCAR full-time in 2024. Mark Andretti's been running full-time in the SRX and had a lot of success in that series. So I think he's someone who could be going full-time with Spire in the Truck Series. We're going to talk about them here in just a little bit. Reports to come out about that team. But Mark was interested in running in NASCAR full-time after making a few select starts. Then over the last few months, there's been a lot of chatter about Jeffrey Earnhardt, and he's being considered for the number 8 car for Junior Motorsports for 2024. Jeffrey Earnhardt is, of course, the nephew of Dale Earnhardt Jr. He spoke at Pocono as well, saying that he's been one of the drivers they've been talking about, and Jeffrey's someone who has not really had a top opportunity in good equipment. So we could see Jeffrey potentially running for Junior Motorsports in 2024. Then at the New Hampshire weekend, Kyle Busch spoke to the media. He says he wasn't sure if he would be racing in 2023. Obviously, you've been following the story. Kyle Busch almost lost his ride altogether, wasn't going to race because he didn't have a sponsor and lost his ride with Joe Gibbs Racing at the end of 2022 due to the sponsor M&M leaving at the end of 2022. It didn't have anything set up for Kyle Busch at the time. We now know Kyle Busch driving for RCR has been having a really good year with the organization. Then around the same time, it was reported, I think, by Front Stretch that Williams Watch will expand his racing schedule for 2024. He's going to run select Xfinity and Truck Series races in 2024 and will run full-time with Joe Gibbs Racing and Xfinity in 2025. William Swash does not turn 18 years old till October of 2024. He's been really good in ARCA, has had a couple Truck Series races, and has done overall a pretty solid job, so he'll be running in NASCAR more in 2024. Then there's been a lot of talk about AJ Allmendinger, and his future still undecided currently at the moment, but there's been a lot of chatter recently circulating that AJ Allmendinger may not return to the NASCAR Cup Series full-time in 2024. And it sounds like that Daniel Hemrick and Ty Dillon could be driving that number 16 car in the 2024 season, or it could potentially happen if Allmendinger doesn't return. While Allmendinger has struggled in the Cup Series, some people believe he could return to the Xfinity Series in the 2024 NASCAR Xfinity Series season. Then there's been a little bit of chatter about Ryan Preece, and some rumors circulate that Ryan Preece is close to signing an extension with Stewart-Haas Racing for 2024. He spoke to Dalton Hopkins at Frontridge, said he's really close to signing a deal and extension, but nothing is finalized currently at the moment. But with how Ryan Preece, I think he deserves another chance and opportunity to come back. It sounds very likely at this point that we are going to see Ryan Preece returning to SHR in the number 41 car in 2024, but nothing is finalized currently at the moment. Then there was a really big shocking announcement in late July that Justin Hailie would be leaving Kaulig Racing at the end of 2024, to go to Rickor Racing starting in 2024. Now, it is a multi-year deal with Rickor Racing, and RFK is partnership with that as well. If the RFK Alliance, they will be working with Justin Hailie. This is kind of a little bit of a surprising move to a lot of people, but I do think this move is going to make a lot of sense long term, with some talk of RFK potentially expanding in the long-term future. I think that Justin Hailie will have a pretty decent year with Rick, where he's not going to be a championship threat or contender by any stretch of imagination, but I certainly do believe that Justin Hailie will overall have a pretty decent year with Rickor and might be the best performer in Rickor Racing's history. Then at the Pocono weekend, after winning the Pocono ARCA race, Justin Love spoke to the media, and he's unsure of his 2024 plans. But he wants to follow the Corey Heim model and run in the Xfinity Series and Truck Series. Well, he's been kind of whiny throughout his career. I think Justin Love does have a lot of talent. He's pretty good in ARCA this year, though he does have the best car. He's been decent in a couple Truck Series races I've seen him do. I think Justin Love will have a pretty decent year if he does go to Trucks in Xfinity next year. There's been a lot of chatter around Carson Osbar throughout this year. First, it was with the 8 car, but it sounds like right now that Carson Osbar is available for the number 77 car for Spire Motorsports in the Cup Series for 2024. With a lot of talk that Ty Dillon may not be in the number 77 car next year, Carson Osbar will be the perfect choice. I think while it might be rushing him up, he's been really good in the Truck Series here, scoring 3 victories. He's a championship threatening contender and could win the Truck Series championship in 2023 with a team that's not the greatest team in the world. I don't think the car is going to be setting the world on fire for sure if Carson goes there full-time, but I think Carson has a lot of talent and can get the best out of equipment. On the same Door Bumper Clear podcast, this initially came out. Freddie Kraft, his father, Bubba Wallace, revealed that Bubba Wallace only has 1 year left on his contract with 23XI Racing, meaning Bubba Wallace could be a free agent at the end of the 2024 season. But I do believe how good Bubba Wallace has been performing with 23XI this year, having a career year and making the playoffs, I would imagine that Bubba Wallace is going to be somewhat of a threat to continue racing with this team long term and probably will finish his career with the team. Then during one of the SRX races the last couple of weeks, we heard some conversation that they're trying to still get Julio Castroneves another opportunity to run the 2024 Daytona 500. Remember, he was supposed to run the 2023 Daytona 500, but that got denied after the money team was a team they were going to go to, and that team, let's be honest, was not the greatest organization in the world. So it sounds like at this point they're still trying to find a ride for Julio Castroneves for the 2024 Daytona 500. During the same SRX race, I think it was at Motor Mile, Joseph Newgarden spoke to Matt Weaver of Sportsline. He says he's still interested in racing in NASCAR. He's said this a couple times throughout his career in IndyCar and would love to make some NASCAR starts. He has driven a stock car before, drove with the Charlotte Rumble in 2017. It'd be really cool to see Joseph Newgarden in the future race in NASCAR. Then after the Road America weekend, it was reported that Sage Karam wants to run in NASCAR in full-time in 2024. He had a very successful race there, almost won the race with Sam Hunt Racing to really get in that team their first ever NASCAR Xfinity Series victory. Sage Karam has proven he does have a lot of talent. He's been pretty good in the Xfinity Series here as well with Alva Prime and Sam Hunt Racing this year. It'd be really cool to see him full-time in 2024. And then we had another Jordan Bianchi report that came out, I believe, in early August or late July that John Hunter Nemechek is right now the lead candidate to drive the number 42 car for Legacy Motor Club in 2024. Obviously, we discussed early in the episode that it sounds like the Legacy Motor Club, we know for sure they're switching to Toyota in 2024. With how good of a driver John Hunter Nemechek is, it doesn't surprise or shock me that John Hunter is the driver who might be going in that 42 car next year. I think he would do a better job than Noah Grayson's on the 42 car, but John Hunter may not be the best candidate out there, but he's definitely the best candidate in the Toyota pipeline. Currently at the moment, it sounds like he could be headed to Legacy Motor Club in the 2024 season. Then in early August and late July, it would be officially announced that Corey LaJoie has signed a multi-year contract extension with Spire Motorsports. What's really interesting is he had apparently had multiple really good deals and could potentially be driving for better teams like Trackhouse Racing if they were to expand. But Corey LaJoie wanted to stay with Spire Motorsports because of stability and how much he has been improving with the team. And that is very true. He's been improving with Spire Motorsports. I think he's only going to continue getting better with Spire Motorsports. Then on the week of the Michigan week, it would be officially announced that Ryan has signed and will be driving full-time for Alpha Prime Racing in 2024 in the number 43 car. He's had a decent year with the team. He's struggled at times, but Alpha Prime Racing has had an up-and-down year in the 2023 season. I do believe that Ryan Ellis could do a better job with the team in 2024. Then on the same Michigan weekend, it will be officially announced and confirmed that Martin Truex Jr. will be returning to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2024 in the number 19 car. There have been some speculation earlier that Martin Truex Jr. could retire at the end of the 2023 season with how well he's been performing with Joe Gibbs Racing. Right now, probably being the odds-on favorite to win the championship. It doesn't shock me or surprise me at this point that Martin Truex Jr. is officially going to be returning to the team. He's been a really good job with the team this year in 2023, having a major bounce-back year. I think Martin Truex Jr. can definitely do better. He will be back with JGR in 2024. On the same announcement, it will be officially confirmed that Ryan Truex also be returning to Joe Gibbs Racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series in 2024. But as announced, only a part-time deal. But Ryan Truex does want to run full-time in 2024. Ryan Truex has been having a really good year in Xfinity, the select races he ran. He actually won at Dover earlier this year, and I think he can always get the best out of equipment as he looks to run full-time in 2024. On the same Michigan weekend, we had RFK Racing, and Brad Keselowski spoke about potentially expansion. And Brad Keselowski says that they do want to, in the future, have 3 full-time cars. With how expensive the charters are currently, moment going for $40 to $50 million, teams are not letting drivers and other manufacturers and other people come in and buy those select charters right now. So it sounds like the earliest we could see RFK Racing expand to another full-time entry is 2025, but they do want to expand. Then on that same weekend, Kyle Busch officially confirmed he'll be running 5 more Truck Series races in 2024. Since the restrictions have come to play, Kyle Busch has only ran 5 races every single year and has gone on to win at least 1 or 2 races every year he does run in the Truck Series. He looks to win more races in the Truck Series in the 2024 Truck Series season. But Kyle Busch also did confirm that both Chase Purdy and Nick Sanchez are going to return to their respective brides. Chase Purdy will be driving the number 4 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports in 2024, and Nick Sanchez is returning to Rev Racing in the 2024 season. Nick Sanchez made the playoffs with Rev Racing, so not a shock and surprise there. While Chase Purdy hasn't been the greatest driver in the world this year at KBM, he does have that Bama Buggy sponsorship, which is a big reason why both those drivers are returning to those set rides. A few days would pass, and then a few weeks ago on the Wednesday after, Firma Motorsports officially confirmed that they have announced their 2024 NASCAR Cup Series driver lineup. Michael McDowell will return the number 34 car for Front Row in 2024. Meanwhile, Todd Gillen will be driving the number 38 car for Front Row in 2024. They were looking to maybe have a third full-time car for Zane Smith, but we know the charters are really hard to come by at the moment, so they will only have 2 full-time entries. They could have a third part-time entry in 2024, but that is not happening because they wanted to get 3 full-time entries. That won't happen in 2024. Then I believe on late Wednesday, early Thursday, we saw Trackhouse Racing owner Justin Marks go on Sirius and NASCAR Radio, and he says that Trackhouse is not planning to run full-time in trucks or Xfinity Series anytime soon. This basically had been kind of talked about because of Shane Van Gisbergen. We'll talk about here in just a little bit, but Trackhouse Racing as of now will not be expanding to the truck or Xfinity Series anytime soon. Then Noah Gragson officially confirmed after there been some speculation he'd be out after what happened earlier in the year. Noah Gragson will confirm he will not be returning to Legacy Motor Club in 2024 after what had happened earlier in the week and had granted himself his release. Noah Gragson still has not been reinstated by NASCAR currently at the moment, and we're not sure what's going on with Noah Gragson at this point. There's been rumblings that Thorsport Racing could be a team he could be going to next. There's also rumblings about Hailie Racing, which we'll talk about that team here in just a little bit. But Noah Gragson, we know for sure, will not be returning to Legacy. I hope Noah Gragson does get a second chance and opportunity in racing. Then on the night of the season finale, I think for the SRX, Shane Van Gisbergen will be confirmed he's finalizing a deal with Trackhouse Racing for 2024. Now, it's not going to be a full-time NASCAR Cup Series, right? It's going to be a wide range of ML deal. Meaning he'll be running part-time in the Cup Series, part-time Xfinity, and part-time in trucks. Sounds like he'll be driving for Nice Motorsports team he did make his Truck Series debut with. Maybe driving for Colgan in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And then driving part-time with Trackhouse, maybe 12 to 15 races. Shane Van Gisbergen will not be returning to Supercars next year. And he looks like he'll be running full-time in NASCAR. I think he will be very, very competitive if he does go to NASCAR. And it sounds like it's going to be happening in 2024. Then during the IRP weekend, Jake Drew spoke to the media, and he wants to run full-time in the Truck Series in 2024. Jake Drew's made a couple select starts. He is also the ARCA West champion from 2022 and has done a decent job in the select races he's ran. I think Jake Drew does deserve a chance to run full-time in the Truck Series. Then after a very successful race at the Indy Road Course, so not most successful race, Brody Kosecki spoke to the media, and he says he would like to try racing in NASCAR once again. I don't think he got the fairest shake in the world. He didn't get a lot of testing, and I think it'd be really cool to see him make another start once again. Obviously, he's focused currently on supercars, but he does have that connection to Rabbits and RCR. It'd be cool for him to make a return in NASCAR in the future. Then we got a little bit of talk about Kamui Kobayashi. And Kamui Kobayashi also says he wants to race in NASCAR once again as well. He didn't have the greatest race in the world, but again, I think he got wrecked a couple times, so that really didn't help his case. Kamui Kobayashi also hopes to get a lot more Japanese racers in NASCAR once again in the future. While his start wasn't the most successful, it would be cool for him to come back in NASCAR and race once again. Then on the same weekend, Max Pappas had tweeted out that he also wants to race in NASCAR once again in 2024. To my knowledge, the last time Max Pappas raced in NASCAR was back in 2013 when he drove the number 14 for NTS Racing. Max Pappas hasn't raced in a long time. He's been working with William Byron, kind of coaching him in the road course stuff. I think Max Pappas could be decent, but it's been a long time since he has raced in NASCAR. Then there's been a lot of conversations about Zane Smith, and it sounds like the Zane Smith future is currently uncertain at Front Row Motorsports. He wants to go full-time Cup racing in 2024, and he thought he'd get the chance and opportunity with Front Row. But it sounds like that may not be a possibility for 2024. There's been a lot of conversation about Stuart Haas Racing that he could be going full-time with that team. But right now, we're not sure what's going on with Zane Smith. There's other rides that could be up and available, but the rides are starting to fill very, very quickly. But Zane Smith does want to run full-time in NASCAR in 2024. Speaking of that, let's talk about, basically after we kind of talk about this, but Austin Hill officially confirmed he has signed a multi-year contract extension with Rich Schultz Racing and will continue driving the number 21 car at least for the next few years. One of the big reasons why he decided to stay with this team is because of loyalty. Austin Hill's been having a really, really good year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, could definitely win the championship this year, and I think there's a really strong possibility that he could win the championship in 2023 and also in 2024. He's a really good driver. There's been some talk he can go to 31 for Hailie Racing, but that has gone out the window now with this official announcement. We know for sure that Austin Hill will be with RCR into 2024 and also 2025 as well, as he looks to win another championship in the foreseeable future. Then, early about a week or two ago, after the Watkins Glen race, there's been a lot of talk and chatter about 23XI Racing and Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has stated publicly that he has a contract ready to be signed with Joe Gibbs Racing for 2024. But there's been a lot of talk and conversations recently that 23XI Racing could be headed to Ford in 2024. Lee Spencer from CatchFence.com, a credible journalist in the industry, has stated in the article that 23XI Racing has met with Ford and has had conversations about maybe heading over to Ford in 2024. She also does report that 23XI Racing does want to expand in 2024 as well to 3 full-time entries. There's a lot of talk about other teams to talk about here just a little bit. If 23XI Racing does head to Ford, that would be a big shock for Joe Gibbs Racing. Denny Hamlin still spoke to the media earlier today, and he does say that he still has nothing to update. We're getting into September. The closer we do get the end of the year and the deal's not signed, the the more likely that this move could end up happening. Now, I still think it's more likely at this point that Denny Hamlin does return to Joe Gibbs Racing in the 2024 season, but right now what's holding everything up is this manufacturer deal with 23XI. And I think you're looking at historically what's happened with Joe Gibbs Racing and teams that have been aligned with JGR in the past. So there's a potential possibility that we may see 23XI Racing heading to Toyota. She had also reported that Stewart-Haas Racing could potentially lose up to 2 charters by the end of the 2023 season. Now, what's interesting to note is that Stewart-Haas Racing does have a contract with Ford where they're supposed to have 4 cars by the end of that contract that goes through 2024. Now, they're supposed to stay with Ford, but there's been some rumors and rumors suggesting that they could leave Ford at the end of this year, may not honor that contract. There's some talk that Ford is not really happy, and I just don't know what's going to happen with Stewart-Haas Racing, but there is some talk and chatter currently at the moment that we may Stewart-Haas Racing sell a couple charters, and they're looking for more money as well, maybe around $40 to $50 million for that deal. A big reason for that is because a lot of talk and chatter that Aric Almirola is likely retiring at the end of the 2023 season. And if Aric Almirola is retired at the end of the 2023 season, Smithfield is likely gone because Smithfield has been committed to Aric Almirola since the 2012 season when he joined Richard Petty Motorsports at the time. When I think of Aric Almirola, he's had an up and down career, but it sounds very likely, and a lot of people have been saying that he is likely gone at the end of the year. And that's a big reason why these 23XI and Stewart-Haas reports have continued to circulate over the last week or two. But I do believe at this point that Aric Almirola is going to retire at the end of 2023. He was supposed to retire at the end of 2022, but it sounds very likely, and a lot of people are confident that he's going to retire at the end of the 2023 season. Then a few days later, about a week ago, it was announced that GMS Racing will be ceasing operations and shutting down at the end of 2023. In addition to that, the GMS Fabrication Shop is also going to shut down at the end of 2023, affecting teams like the number 9, the McAnally-Hilgeman team, Brett Holmes' organization, and also some other organizations that are part of the GMS Racing Fabrication as well. GMS Racing has been part of the Truck Series since I think 2012 or 2013. They've been running and have had a lot of success. They've won championships with Sheldon Creed. They've won a lot of races with Sheldon Creed, Brett Moffitt, and also Grant Enfinger as well, who did win a couple races here with the team. It's really disappointing to see this team shut down, but with GMS, with Legacy switching to Toyota, it's not a major shock and surprise that they are going to be shutting down at the end of this season. On the same day, though, Daniel Dye officially thanked GMS Racing for all they've done for the sport, but he does have a contract signed for 2024 already. He has not announced exactly what that contract is, but he will be for sure in the Truck Series more than likely in 2024. While Daniel Dye has had an up and down year in the NASCAR Truck Series this year, I do think he's got talent, and I think he will do better with another year in the Truck Series. We do know for sure, though, he'll be racing in NASCAR in 2024. The next day, I believe it was on the Thursday morning or the Friday morning, it was officially announced that Park Kligerman will be returning to Big Machine Racing in the 2024 season in the number 48 car. Park Kligerman's been having a really good year in the Xfinity Series and currently sits right now holding the last spot in the NASCAR Xfinity Series class. I think he's only going to get better in the 2024 season and could be an outside championship threatening contender and could win some races in 2024. I think this is well deserved, and I think he is going to get better in 2024 as well, while he has been improving in 2023. Then during Daytona weekend, after Brandon Jones had crashed out of the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Daytona, Brandon Jones confirmed to Front Stretch that he'll be returning to Junior Motorsports in the 2024 season in the number 9 car. While he has struggled this year with Junior Motorsports, he is a driver who brings a lot of sponsorship and a lot of funding, which is a huge reason why he is returning to the number 9 car next season. He needs to improve because he has struggled in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year, but I think Brandon Jones does have a lot of talent, and hopefully he will improve with the team next year in 2024. Then we got a lot of reports, and NASCAR for Motorsports Wire put out an article about this, that Cog Racing does have a driver for the number 31 car next year, and apparently it's a shocking name. Some drivers been brought up have been Noah Gragson, Justin Allgaier, even Matt DiBenedetto, we'll talk about here in a little bit, and even other drivers like Shane Van Gisbergen have been brought up potentially driving the number 31 car next year. Chris Rice does say announcement is coming in the next few weeks, but it does sound like it's going to be a really big shocking name who could be driving that number 31 car in 2024. Then Oskansky from Motorsports Wire put out another article, and according to him, Bob Parker says that Spire Motorsports will likely go full-time truck racing in 2024. A couple names have been suggested are Roger Kroof and Marco Andretti. Marco Andretti, of course, made his Truck Series debut with the number 17, and Roger Kroof has driven for Spire Motorsports before. They've driven part-time in the Truck Series. They've had Kyle Larson win for them, Corey LaJoie drive for the team, Roger drive for the team, Marco drive for the team, Lane Riggs, Derek Krause have all driven for the organization, and also William Byron has and also has won, but they look to be running full-time trucks in 2024. And then, unfortunately, after we've been trying to talk about this for a long time, but unfortunately, Kurt Busch announced, sadly, that he'll be retiring from NASCAR officially. He unfortunately has not been medically cleared and will not return to NASCAR. Now, he will still be working with 2311 Racing in the fun department and the advisor driver for the team. But he also revealed some very interesting information. He has been dealing with arthritis and gout flare-ups and said it was really difficult to walk last year, so it's very likely that this year was going to be his last year regardless. We were hoping he'd make a return. He's been hoping to return. He wanted to come back and maybe run full-time, but it sounds like at this point he will not be coming back ever again, which is really disappointing. Kurt Busch has had an illustrious and a fantastic career, and it sucks to see that this is it for Kurt Busch. Thank you, Kurt Busch, for everything you've done, and it sucks that you are officially retiring from NASCAR. Then after the Milwaukee race, after Grant Enfinger won, he revealed that he does not have a ride yet for 2024. He's still working on plans for 2024 as we speak. I do think Grant Enfinger, after how good he's been in the NASCAR Truck Series here, I do expect he'll be running full-time in trucks in 2024 in some really, really good equipment. He's a good driver, knows how to get done behind the wheel. He'll be back in the Truck Series, I believe, in the 2024 season. And finally, it was officially announced on Wednesday, and shockingly on Wednesday, that Matt DiBenedetto will not be returning to Rackley WR Racing in 2024. He does not have his plans set for 2024, but Matt DiBenedetto, this announcement is very interesting because we already talked about the Kaulig Racing reports and rumors. There's been some suggestions that Matt DiBenedetto might be headed to the 31 car for the team next year at Kaulig Racing, which I think would be a good move for Kaulig because I think Matt DiBenedetto is a talented driver, and I think he can get the best out of equipment. He did really good with the Wood brothers, and I think he would do a pretty good job with this team and made the playoffs at Rackley and did win a race for the organization. So I think that he will end up with Kaulig, but he for sure will not be returning to Rackley in 2024. So, that is going to be today's NASCAR Silly Season update. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on to notify when a video does go live on my channel. Follow my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support my Patreon as well. Links can below over that, and comment your thoughts below on today's video. What are your thoughts about a Silly Season update overall? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, we have the NASCAR Xfinity Series race review from Darlington. Then on Sunday, we may have a doubleheader talking about Matt DiBenedetto, of course, and also talking about the Southern 500 in the playoff bracket as well. Monday, there should be NASCAR news on the channel. We've got some media day stuff to talk about along with any other news that breaks this weekend. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we're going to have another video, and it could be a Q&A video. Maybe my 2,000 subscriber Q&A may be coming out. We'll have to wait and see. So anyways, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.